What questions should you be asking when you're looking to purchase a mobile home? All right, guys, we're going to talk about mobile homes here, some pros, some cons, and some things you need to know if you're looking at acquiring a mobile home. First off, let's talk about what a mobile home is. The definition of the mobile home is something that can be moved or transported. And lots of times, they actually have axles on them. So mobile homes have axles. What an axle is, if you look underneath your car, it's what's in between the tires. So if you have a tire and a tire, in between the two is a round thing that's an axle that goes around and around. And mobile homes have axles, or a lot of them do. And what that basically means is if you threw some tires on there, you could pull that thing to another destination. Now, that doesn't mean that's not how most mobile homes are moved. They're typically put onto a trailer and moved that way. And so what you have when it comes to mobile homes is something that's basically moved. Now, that's different than prefabbed or manufactured homes. A prefab home is actually made in a factory and then is transported on location and put together. That's not a modular home. A modular home is moved in one piece, or if it's a double wide, it's moved in two pieces and then put together. So a mobile home is the same as a car. It's considered as a car. It is not considered real property. It's a car, basically, is what you're buying, but it doesn't have a motor in it, but it can be moved like a car. It can be transported, which is why that's happening on the mobile home. So the number one thing when you're dealing with mobile homes is this whole concept of who owns the land underneath it. You can find mobile homes for very inexpensive, and the reason is because the lot rent is very expensive. So what happens is people buy a mobile home and it's in a community, and then they have to pay for the land that it's sitting on, and they have to pay a monthly fee to do a land lease, meaning they are leasing the land that the property is actually sitting on, or the mobile home is actually sitting on. And that can be very expensive. Some of the things that investors need to realize with mobile homes is several mobile home communities do not allow you to lease the property out. It has to be owner occupied. They don't like landlords to be there. Now, there's a cool little workaround if you want to do this as a landlord, where you actually seller finance the property and be the bank to the new buyer, and then they're an owner, they're not a tenant, to get around some of these rules that the association has, or the mobile park has. The downside to that, though, you have to realize is if your new buyer that's buying the mobile home, seller financing from you, does not pay their lot rent, then the mobile home park can then take over or initiate a foreclosure to take the property, and then you could lose your interest in the property, in the mobile home. I shouldn't call it a property, I should really call it a mobile home. So that's something that you've just got to be aware of here is if you're dealing with a mobile home, you could get stuck with a huge bill for the lot rent, even if you're doing seller financing. So the questions you should be asking yourself is, one, is this mobile home, who owns the dirt? Is this mobile home, is it land leased, meaning they're leasing the ground that's underneath it? Or is this mobile home, they own the actual property underneath it? That's gonna be two completely separate price ranges. You see, if you're buying the dirt and you're buying the mobile home, that could actually be an investment that could go up in value. If you're buying just the mobile home, that's something that's gonna go down in value until they bottom out at a certain place. And mobile homes are not great quality construction. They don't have amazing heating systems. They don't do great with keeping out the cold. So those are some things you've got to take in consideration, especially if you're dealing with old ones. Now, when you're dealing with that, you've got to make sure that you know who owns the land. Second thing is, once you understand if you're buying the land or not buying the land, the next question you need to realize is, do they allow you to do rentals in the mobile home park? If they're allowing you to do rentals in the park, that's fantastic, but keep in mind, one of the downside to mobile home parks is that expensive lot rent. So I can tell you, many years ago, I started doing a few mobile home deals. So I thought, this is really fantastic. It's really inexpensive, and I can seller finance them and get some good cash flow coming in. But what I can tell you is, what I learned from it is, one, it's very management intense. The type of people that are renting mobile homes, for the most part, are going to be more needy, They're going to take more management, and it's going to cost you a lot of time in order to service those, and that's something I didn't enjoy doing. The second problem that I ran into is what I talked about earlier, was that lot rent. It got to a point where with one of my people I sold the mobile home to, I ended up just deeding it to him, just giving it to him to get it out of my life. The trick with that, if you're doing the mobile homes, is you want to buy them so cheap and get a down payment enough that any of the payments are actually principal, or excuse me, any of the payments are actually profit for you. And so if they're all profit, then you really haven't lost much. So for example, let's say you buy a mobile home for $3,000, and let's say you sell it for $9,000, and you require $3,000 down and payments of $250 each month. Well, if they pay that $250 each month, starting at that first payment, you're end up with profit of $250 right out of the gates. That can be done. Usually it takes some elbow grease and takes you finding somebody. You might have to pay a lot rent for a couple of months while you're trying to find someone that's going to actually make that purchase for you. So that's something you've got to take in consideration when you're looking at these. So the first thing is, who owns the dirt? And the secondly is, does the park allow for people that are wanting to be landlords, or is it owner occupied only? If so, you've got to look at the seller financing, and if you can do a seller financing type deal, and if that's what you want to get into. And third, you just got to make the decision of, do you really want to be in a higher management business? I found even if you are the bank, when you're dealing with the mobile homes, you're typically dealing with more management intense, even if you are just selling the property as seller financing. And are you in a situation, the next question you've really got to ask yourself is, are you in a good enough situation that if you just had to walk away from the deal without having to continue to pay any park rent because the person you sold it to isn't paying their park rent, did you buy a good enough deal where you can do that? That's the next question that you really need to be asking yourself here. So there's some pros to mobile homes. They have a really good return on them, but they're typically management intense. So it's something to take into consideration there. Now, in some areas, if you can buy a mobile home and put it on a permanent foundation, meaning on its own land, that could be a fantastic investment opportunity for somebody as well in trying to get cheap rent. And that's one of the problems that we're running into, is affordable housing is an issue. It's a really big issue, and so anything you can do for affordable housing can be very advantageous and can become very profitable in what we're trying to do here. Now, one of the things you may want to get your hands on is, I have a repair checklist, and this repair checklist goes through things you need to be looking for on houses or mobile homes you want to walk through if you're looking to buy one. If you want to get a copy of that repair checklist, just send me a text message to 435-294-0433. Just text me your email address. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button and consider becoming a subscriber. I really appreciate it. I've also got a blog of the 21 questions investors should ask when buying a house. It's my complete checklist, and so if you want to read up on that, I'll link it in the show notes below as well. Otherwise, make it a very profitable day, and bye for now.